All right, we have a question from Ambitious Nomad who says, "I'm a taller guy, but when I'm boxing, I tend to find shorter opponents more difficult than big ones. Once they get past my reach, I don't know how to get them back off again. Any tips?" Okay, a couple of things. You got to start understanding framing. Boxing is not just about punching and using your reach, it's about frames. And this comes into play when we're fighting inside the pocket. That means your feet are overlapping, you're really close. There are basically three ranges of boxing. There's outside the pocket. Let's say there are two guys here, feet not overlapping. They can only use their longest range weapons like their jab or whatever, right? But then they come into a toe-to-toe range where they're standing very close. The feet are almost together, right? And then there's in the pocket where they're overlapping, right? And that's where considerably shorter fighters will often try to get to in order to hit and control a taller fighter. So when I started out, I was usually the tallest guy, not the biggest guy, because a lot of people outweighed me. But I was a really tall, skinny dude, tall, lanky guy. So I towered over these other guys in my division most of the time. But these little dudes built like tanks who actually outweighed me would get on the inside and try to light me up there. And so I became intimately familiar with inside fighting, fighting in the pocket and fighting in the clinch early on. Now, boxing doesn't allow inactive clinching, but I would recommend study some dirty boxing tactics. Now, dirty boxing doesn't necessarily mean illegal moves. What it can refer to as well as, doing something illegal or dirty, if you will, is a technique that involves an active clinch. If you watch Roy Jones Jr. in slow motion, and you have to watch him in slow motion to even see this, when he gets in the pocket, he starts doing all kinds of active clinch work. He's doing everything by the book. He will never hit the guy when holding. But he'll do things like an arm drag, pull it, release, and strike, boom, all in one quick motion, right? Learn your Philly shell. And a fantastic channel to learn that from, a fantastic coach here on YouTube to learn that from, is Coach Anthony. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description down below. Coach Anthony is one of the most underrated boxing coaches on YouTube. Go check him out. Go show him some love. That dude has a whole Philly shell tutorial, a whole system, and you can buy the extended version, which is fantastic. Go check him out. Tell him Ramsey sent you. But yeah, the beauty of the Philly shell inside the pocket is that we no longer need the reach. And with this shoulder, this lead shoulder, we can wedge that against the other guy, making a frame and a wedge, taking away his weapons, so he cannot effectively strike us. Now there's a whole system to this, which is why I recommend go check out one of the best in the business when it comes to teaching that, especially teaching it in the online format. Coach Anthony, awesome. Awesome with the Philly shell, right? But to try to break down the bare bones of the system to you in a talking head video, that's hard to do. But if you get in really close and tight, or your opponent gets in really close and tight, with this frame on the shoulder, you can also hip check and make some space, right? He connects with the shoulder, that's the connecting point, boom, we hip check. Feet grounded into the floor, we bump, we make a little space, bah, and then we can get him with the right hand. Or make some space, boom, bah, bah. Right hand, left hook, something like that. I'm assuming you're orthodox. If you're southpaw, you still have a bunch of cool options from that Philly shell or crab guard style position, right? So learn some techniques outside of the box of what you already know. The Philly shell is one of those that in boxing I think is hugely valuable when there is a bit of a height disparity. Because once you are able to get outside the pocket again, then you can start picking them off with your reach. Another thing I would recommend is a short frame and a long frame. So what that means, I'll try to demonstrate this again in a talking head video. I've made this shape, the square shape with my forearm, and essentially I'm jamming this part. You have to be very careful that this doesn't even look remotely like an elbow, or you might be disqualified, right? So we bring that up and we push. We make a frame across his jaw, right, with the forearm. And we push and we make space, keeping this tight, keeping this strong. And now with that short frame, now we can turn that into a reverse collar tie. We can grab the shoulder, pull as we step and pivot. Yeah, this is really one of those show not tell type of videos, but I hope you can pick up on what I'm saying. I'll try to make a video in the gym after my shoulder heals. If you don't know, I've had a what do we call that? Separated shoulder, partially dislocated shoulder. So that's given me some trouble lately. But yeah, I'll definitely break that technique down because it's very valuable. And then there's the long frame where we're using the palm. Yeah, open up the boxing glove. You can push with your palm, right? So I'm not holding, I'm making a frame, I'm pushing. So when he comes in, I've straightened out my arm, I've locked this, because your skeleton is much, much stronger than your muscles. If there's a little bend and a guy even smaller than you comes in and pushes, it's going to bend your arm and he's going to get on the inside. But I can push, and instead of trying to push him away, push yourself away from him with this frame. And you can do the same thing with the short frame. And the long frame can also turn into the reverse collar tie, and you can pull yourself behind him on a pivot, right? So again, I hope that makes some kind of sense. If not, I'll break that down after the shoulder heals in the gym and show you this awesome footwork. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.